Cool. Okay.
How's it going?
Hi, guys.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing good.
I like the short hair. Is that new? Can you hear us?
What did you say?
I said I like the short hair. Is that new?
Oh, thanks. Yes, the new short haircut.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
During the pandemic?
Yeah.
Sure.
That's the time to
Yeah.
do it,
I got,
right?
I got bored during the pandemic. I started chopping it myself and then realized I should start to look like Rosanna Banana. It was like not fun. So I went and had a professional
That's how it
cut
always
it.
starts.
Yeah.
So we are like just a couple weeks away from the 30-year anniversary of the first episode of Step by Step. It's crazy.
Yeah. Wow.
Do you
That's
remember?
crazy.
Do you remember where you were that day that the first episode came on TV?
Probably, well, because we would always film on Friday nights. So we actually probably
Oh,
were filming the show when it premiered and then watched it later on the VCR.
I've got to imagine that was pretty crazy as a kid. Like just like a huge show coming on TGIF. Like I'm assuming with other shows that you were watching at the time at that age. Like I don't know, were you like watching Full House and Family Matters and stuff like that?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I wasn't like my life was kind of shaken up a little bit because we had moved to Florida in 1985, and then I started doing all these pageants and talent shows. So I was kind of not like the normal kid. We were usually gone on the weekends doing those pageants. And then my parents moved me out to California in 1989 after a manager scouted us and said, you should bring her out to California. So life was kind of like not a normal life for me then. So I don't really remember following those shows like and maybe a normal kid would at that point.
Yeah.
So while you're talking about your pageant life, I do have to ask because I saw that you were a pretty skilled tap dancer back in the day. Do you still have a pair of
Oh,
shoes somewhere?
I do.
Wow.
They're right in the closet over here.
We just signed up my
Yeah, I
daughter
do.
for tap dance. It's tap, ballet, and jazz, and I think she starts like next week. So it'll be her first ever class.
Oh,
Any
I love
pointers?
it. You know what? It's actually very funny. Well, see, the funny thing is, my mom started me in tap when I was 3, which I loved. And I always thought like I was a super dancer, like I came out. And then I saw some videos of my first recital, and I literally was just standing on stage, like staring at the other girl.
It seems
Like,
like it
I
worked
guess
out
I
for you though.
wasn't. Yeah. So no, I loved dancing and anything that you can get out there to help gain your confidence, and just as long as she enjoys it and that you don't get so that you can't think straight. But
Yeah.
yeah. And then I got to, of course, you guys might remember when Suzanne Summers and I did the mother and daughter beauty pageant. I
Yeah.
think that's either in the first or second season of the show. So that one will be coming up soon, where we did the Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy, which was super fun. We had a choreographer come in and create that for us. And then to be able to do that with Suzanne for the mother daughter beauty pageant
Yeah.
was like super fun. So, yeah.
Now you're either gonna make my child self really happy or really upset right now. The theme song for the show, the video, obviously you guys are in the amusement park. Is it green screen or did the whole cast actually go to an amusement park for it?
Okay. So a little bit of both, actually.
Okay.
You're not going to be totally disappointed. So, have you heard of Six Flags Magic Mountain? This one was in Valencia,
Yeah,
California.
sure.
Okay, about half an hour from the studio. So we actually, that's the first day of filming ever was out there. Like everybody's just meeting each other. And we actually got to ride the Colossus roller coaster, that wooden one, a couple of times. And they got some really like crane shots of it, with us riding it. And then they had stand-ins wearing the same clothes, having to write it over and over and over again.
Was anyone on the cast?
They got to write it, and that was fun. And then later, what?
No, go ahead.
Oh, then later in the studio, they did bring in the fake roller coaster with the green screen as well. But I don't know if they ever actually used those close-up shots of us riding it. So,
was anyone on the cast like really scared and didn't want to ride the roller coasters, or was everyone pretty down for it?
I think everyone was pretty excited for it. Yeah, we were, but more probably the kids would have wanted to keep riding it, and then I don't think Suzanne and Patrick wanted to ride it much more than that. But but it was a great roller coaster, and I don't think it's there anymore.
I think they tore it down.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you might have kind of answered this already yourself, because you said you had a kind of a weird time with all the like pageants and moving around and stuff like that. But was there ever a moment like while filming the show or anything where you were like, oh man, this thing is huge. Like, this is way bigger than I ever thought it was going to be. And it's a big deal. Was there ever one of those moments for you?
Yeah. Probably a couple of years into it, when I would go to the mall, and pretty soon, like, a kid will recognize you, and then like they tell their friends. And my mom had like these little fan postcards made up for me, and so she'd always have them with her in the car. And then like I'd have a line of kids that I would just be signing autographs for like an hour or so, which was cool. I didn't mind that. And so I kind of think at that point you're like, okay, I guess it's a big deal now.
I've said this before, but you and Christine Al on the show were like my two simultaneous growing up crushes at the same time. Like, you both offered something very different, and for some reason, like I couldn't pick between the two of you.
10-year-old Steve. So how did it all start?
Of course, there's Stacy. Stacy had her own fan crushes too.
Sure.
She's a little more strict, but
she was my favorite. I'm just going to say that. But so how did it all start? How did you get to be a part of Step by Step and the legacy that it is?
Yes. So of course, the manager, this manager, his name was Gary Scalzo, and he actually had a really good eye for talent. He also scouted Elijah Wood, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, Paul Cetera, who was in the Brady Bunch movie, other actors. So like literally we were in the park in Burbank in Bob Hope Park, learning how to juggle with Elijah Wood and, these actors who went on to great fame. And so it was pretty cool. So he had a setup with the agents right away. And I started auditioning for commercials. I got a McDonald's commercial, which was fun, doing 52 takes of eating chicken McNuggets and then spitting it in the bucket. So that was cool. And then I did a couple other national commercials. And then my first series, which I just went in and auditioned for, just read for the part. I played Jonathan Winter's grandson's girlfriend in Davis Rules. That was on ABC for a few seasons in the early 90s as well. And of course, I was just excited to be on the CBS lot with where they filmed Evening Shade with Burt Reynolds. And like I had a crush on Jay Ferguson, the actor that played the son. So I was just excited to be on the lot and try get my picture with Jay Ferguson. So so I did a few episodes of that. And I had an agent at the time. Her name is Iris Burton. She was like a very I would shiver when I went in to meet her, but apparently I did well enough that she wanted to sign me. She's nice. Like a notorious child actor agent. And she knew the people at ABC, and then they were doing this new pilot. And then later at this ABC party, I met this tall, handsome, dark-haired gentleman who said he saw me on Davis Rules and he wanted me for Step by Step. And it turns out that was actually Bob Iger, who's now the president of ABC.
Wow.
Right.
And so back then he was just a VP or something. So I guess I was kind of handpicked. And then my parents and I went to meet the producers of Step by Step. they said they had another girl who was already 18 and that she could play younger. And so they were seriously considering her. And of course, I was only like 14 at the time. And then later they said they, chose me because they wanted to see me grow with the character or whatever. So
yeah, makes sense.
That's what happened. So basically we just met the producers. I didn't even have to read for the show at that point because they knew my work from Davis Rules. And like we were like pinching ourselves like Suzanne Summers and Patrick Duffy. Are you kidding? Like we loved Dallas. We loved Three's Company. It was like a total dream. And then they were just really wonderful. And then, that was my first pilot. So I'd only been in California a year or two. And that was the first pilot. Now, Brandon Call, who played JT on the show, he had done like 13 pilots, but he'd been around for like 10 years or so. He was like in Blind Fury with Rutger Hauer, if you guys remember that, as a little boy. Yeah, so he knew he was in quite a different, getting all these pilots that never get picked up. And so to get into Step by Step as my first pilot and then for it to be picked up was really fortunate. And so, just I can't complain.
So did you know?
Go ahead, Travis. Go ahead, Steve.
So did you know him before the show got picked up? Like you said, he had filmed all these other pilots and everything. Like, had you been friends with him or?
Actually, funny, Brandon and I were cast in an IBM Computers commercial where we played brother and sister, and all we had to do was like sit at the table working on our computer, and the camera just panned across, and that was it. So yeah, I actually knew him before, and I was of course in love with him too.
I feel like he had to have been telling you all these like horror stories, like I've done all these 13 pilots and everything, like don't worry, we probably won't get it, but who knows, maybe it'll come through or something.
I don't know. When you're 14, you don't talk about those things, It's like that's what I hear my mom and his mom talking about, right? That's like stage parent chatter. But yeah, we were just like kids having fun, and that's about it.
I mean, I remember when it debuted and the buzz just around Patrick Duffy and Suzanne Summers being together on the show was so huge. I don't see how it ever could have been a failure. Was the pilot that aired the pilot that you all shot, or was there any kind of changes that were made between what was shot and what was aired?
Now this will be very interesting for you guys when you're going back to watch, because sometimes in the title shots, you might have heard the rumor that there was actually a different little brother in the pilot episode. So my little brother, that Mark, the blonde, nerdy kid, was not played by Christopher Castile in the pilot.
Okay.
And so there are certain shots where, like in the title sequence, where the whole family is walking together, and I believe you can still see this little brown-haired kid. That's not Josh Byrne. That's not the other brother. And so he's still in some of the shots. Yeah,
that's funny.
But he just didn't fit right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. We have Chris and Stacy were both in a different show that we watched that was on TGIF 2 years ago, Going Places.
Oh.
So we always like to reminisce about how they're kind of have a legacy on TGIF that goes beyond the Step by Step. But we're gonna have to look out for that now, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna go back and watch it again. So what was it like for you, like being on a show with so many kids, some of them like right around your age, and like just growing up with all of these kids that were your age?
It was pretty cool. So, and of course we would have school on the set where we'd have to go for a minimum of 3 hours a day when we were working. And so Stacy and Christine and myself, we had our one teacher because we were the older ones. And then the 3 other kids had like a younger, like elementary or middle school teacher. So that was fun for us 3 girls to be together with our teacher. And like when we went to Hawaii and filmed the show there, with our teacher, we hired these guys called Crater Bound, where we hiked the Haleakala crater, and we spent the night like in the tents, and they had like ahi tuna ready and cooking for us. So that was like a neat experience for all of us to do together. And like I said, our teacher went with us. So we just really were close friends, and Even though we didn't see each other that much when we were off, Christine and I did a little bit in the later years. But everybody kind of goes their own way. But we definitely were close. And of course, Brandon was always giving us a hard time and, harassing us on the set. But it was mostly just a lot of fun.
Awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, we haven't watched the show again. It's been 30 years since I've watched it the first time or whatever. But episode 2, Urkel comes in. I feel like we have to mention that. Like, was that a big deal around set to have Jaleel White come in on the show? And was that something that was planned all along to happen on the second episode? Or do you even remember?
Yeah, well, because Family Matters filmed like a few stages down at Warner Brothers. So we kind of were friendly, and we had the same producers. So we knew Jaleel anyway, like he'd come over and hang out with us. And so that the fact that Urkel could be on the show, we thought was great. And yeah, so we had really great guest stars, and he just happened to be one of them. But yeah.
Shooting on that lot, did you have an opportunity to interact with any of the other cast members of any of the other TGIF shows, or was it kind of just the Family Matters crew down the road?
Yeah, Family Matters. I mean, not necessarily TGIF, like ER filmed there, and we would see George Clooney in The Commissary, and then I couldn't speak.
Another TGIF alumni, though. You guys have that in common. And he was also on TGIF. So.
Oh, yeah, there you go. So it was really more about the movie stars and the movies that they were filming on Warner Brothers at the time that we would get really like enamored with. So
that's cool.
Yeah, actually in the first year before we moved to Warner Studios, we filmed at Sony, like the old Culver Studios that had like the Gone with the Wind columns out front. Mm-hmm. That's actually where, like, you've seen the tug of war where we were playing. That's where that was filmed. Some of the family games, actually, where Christine and I are in the bubbles, or throwing the little what's that called? Like at the park, all those colorful,
like the ball pit.
Oh yeah, ball pit.
The ball pit, yeah, something like that. So in the title, that's where that was, at Culver Studios, and they were actually filming A Few Good Men just down the way, and we got to stand in the courtroom specifically for the Demi Moore scene, but got to meet Jack Nicholson, Tom Cruise, and Kevin Bacon when they all came out. It was like, what? So cool. That was like the coolest thing ever.
How much were you like your character on the show growing up? Like, did you have to change a lot for the role, or were you kind of pretty parallel with like her as she was the character growing up?
Well, I'd say she was a lot more outgoing. It's funny because I think I was around that, being in the pageants and like everything having to be perfect, and like my mom spraying my hair with hairspray, and like I can't move because I have to be picture perfect. So in that sense, I brought my pageant stuff, but I was a lot more like, I was kind of like, everyone said I should have been born in the 70s because I loved wearing bell bottoms and like Janis Joplin and the Doors and stuff. That was like more how I was. And I was just getting ready to say something. Darn, about Karen. Oh, I know. So I was kind of like 70s flower child. And then in the 90s, I got back to my country roots, which they did. That's why I sang Blame It on Your Heart and Girls with Guitars on the show, because I really loved being a country singer. And being from Illinois, and my grandmother was a country singer, and I grew up on Loretta Lynn and Dolly Parton. And I actually have this great picture of the 90s. I bought a Dodge Ram pickup truck that I drove around Los Angeles. Okay. I had like a country girl can survive around my license tag. And I call myself, I was original country Kardashian. Because like, thank goodness, like social media didn't exist, because I would have been like country Kardashian. That's how I see myself. And so Karen probably had similarities to that. So we blended in certain areas. Yeah. I
So
hope to think I was not as ditzy, but yeah.
with the amount of time that you spent doing this show, I mean, Suzanne Summers kind of had to have been like a second mom to you at times. Like, is there a lot of lessons that you learned from her while doing the show?
Oh, wow. Probably just about her, just charm and, womanly, yeah, like wiles, I guess you could call it, about how she interacted with men and dealing with fans. And, she's an icon of, like a sex symbol icon of status, and comedy. And just to see how, just really, what a beautiful heart she had, and didn't let that go to her head, and would, make jokes about herself. And so I think that really helped 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 me see stardom in like just a down to earth kind of way. And for Patrick Duffy too. They're just really wonderful people, not affected by anything at all. No, never pulling any like diva issues. They're just really good people.
So in kind of the life of this podcast, we've watched a lot of pilots that have only lasted for an episode or a few episodes here and there. And we've only watched kind of, I think Steve and I both have watched the first episode so far of Step by Step, and you all click immediately. Was there something that made that happen? Was there time spent prior to that first filming that really got you all comfortable with each other? It's just rare to see that kind of chemistry from the start.
Well, I think part of the thread, you guys have probably seen his name because he directed for a lot of the Miller Boyette, Rich Carell.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember when he got on the set, he was just like a little kid himself. And he played like games with us. He played improv games and just really loosened up the set and had fun. And I think that really bonded us as far as the kids go. And like he always had very big Halloween parties. Like he collects all the, I don't know whether it be like Terminator or all the scary monster, like real life ones that they use in the films. He would have really awesome Halloween parties where everyone would go all out. So I think Rich really made it a lot of fun, and he'd always be laughing and enjoy our performances and would be supportive of us. And, they wouldn't direct us a lot, but when they would, give us the right little tweak to make it better. So I think he had a lot to do with it.
Very cool. What was your favorite costume you wore to one of his Halloween parties?
Well, of course. So I was Dolly Parton for one year, and I had this big blonde wig and like this purple jumpsuit, which was awesome. And then I also was the Chiquita Banana girl. Yeah. What's her name?
I think that's her name.
Does she have a name?
I think it's Chiquita Banana Lady.
Girl.
I don't know.
Oh, Carmen Miranda.
Oh, yeah.
Carmen Miranda. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Oh,
so that was a lot of fun.
You just reminded me, maybe Travis too, but you said Carmen Miranda, and then on your IMDb it says you were actually on Carmen Sandiego. Where in the world's Carmen Sandiego? One of our favorite game shows growing up as a kid.
Of course.
What did you do on it?
So I just remember going to this hotel in Los Angeles and like went up on the roof, and I had like the trench coat and the hat, I think, and I just read some of the clues.
Okay.
Like Carmen, or like I don't know. Yeah, I either talked to Carmen or I gave some clues about what Carmen was doing in the world, I guess.
We weren't sure if it was like a celebrity contestant episode or what you did, because we didn't remember you being on it.
No.
Yeah, it wasn't very long. You didn't miss much on it.
You mentioned earlier about really loving music and country music growing up, and I did see that you're doing some more musical stuff now. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, if your listeners go to AngelaWatsonSings.com, that's the only official website that I have right now, but it's actually quite a funny story because I wanted to be back down close to my parents in Florida. And so I had come down here a couple of years ago and brought my then fiance with me, and he was going to the optometrist getting an eye exam. And of course, we're talking about being from Los Angeles. And the optometrist says that he's a budding songwriter from Oklahoma, and he had some songs that he wanted me to sing. And so we're like, okay, whatever. We're in Florida, sure. And so then he calls us up, and like he actually has this recording studio in the next town over that's like really legitimate. And he wanted me to sing his first song called We Love Santa Claus. So if you go to angelawatsonsings.com, you will see the We Love Santa Claus Christmas song and video, which has gotten airplay around the world for the last 2 years during Christmas.
Yeah, we're getting close to Christmas.
And he has written a couple other songs that I've since recorded, and we're still waiting for that to get out of the studio with the instruments they're adding to it. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you're working on other than music? Are you trying to get back and do more acting or anything?
Yes. And actually down here in Florida, right before the pandemic, I was in a play called The Dining Room. It's from the 80s, and I played 8 different characters, from an Irish maid to a teenager to an older lady. And so it was really a really fun play to be involved in. And so we actually auditioned for another one. My husband, who's also an actor, I drug him here from Los Angeles. So we're hoping to maybe do that in February, called The Curious Incident of the Dog in Nighttime. It's an English Pulitzer Prize winning. So I'll have to have an English accent. Of course, my favorite film, My Fair Lady, with Audrey Hepburn, it all came about. This is how you guys might like the story, or you might not. In pageants. Okay, so you asked me about dancing and all that. So I always would do a tap dance for the talent portion of the beauty pageant. I could win in the other categories, but not in talent. It seemed like even if the singer was just okay, they would still beat a dancer in the talent portion. So I said, I'm going to win talent. I'm going to be a singer. I'm going to do that. And so I locked myself in my room. I got like the You Sing the Hits of Patsy Cline. Thank goodness. I think, Crazy or Sweet Dreams, that was way too hard, but I could sing Walking After Midnight, kind of a little country like pop song. And I sang it and I won. And so then that like started the whole singing career.
Oh, wow.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Now the key, I think, is to be.
I forgot what the point of the story was. Yeah.
So
and then I even did one where I sang and I tap danced to Swanee, How I Love You, How I Love You. And, I was talking about My Fair Lady. That's why. There was a song called Wouldn't It Be Loverly that I sang in the pageant that I did well with as well.
Gotcha. So we're just kicking off, like Steve said, the 30 years of Step by Step, or I guess the 7 years, but 30 years ago. So what are some of your favorite episodes that we should look for? And tell us a little bit about why they're your favorites.
Okay. So definitely the mother and daughter beauty pageant. Mm-hmm. There was one where I played Kitty Meow. And you guys remember Sasha Mitchell? He played Cody, the crazy cousin.
Oh, yeah,
Cody.
Of course.
Yeah.
He was the detective. And that was the one where we got to wear like 1940s period costumes. Yeah. And I came into his office and like, you couldn't trust me because you didn't know if I was a lounge singer or something. Mm-hmm. So that was a super fun character to play, like a Katharine Hepburn or, back in the day, Barbara Stanwyck. I pretty much all the ones where we dressed up, or we had like a Western where we were Can girls.
I remember that one. Yeah.
Different ones like that. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I said, yeah, I mean, that one definitely, I remember that one from back in the day. So cool.
Yeah. And then of course, the ones where I got to sing, where Karen was, she had a garage band and she wanted to record music. Oh, well, there's the one where she got the fake lips. Don't know if you remember that. Because she was trying to get the boy. And of course, she had everything that the other girl had, except she didn't have the big pouty lips. So she got the fake lips. And then, it was fun because they actually fitted my lips with prosthetics. I had to get all that done. and I think I have them somewhere.
Oh, that's funny.
Still kept them. Yeah. So that was a very nice, moving scene with Suzanne at the end, talking about don't be superficial, and if they don't love you for who you are, not because of your lips, so it has like a cute message in there. And anyway, so that was a fun show. When we went to Hawaii, um, I love all the ones that were, had pushed the limits with dressing up and kind of going into the fantasy realm.
The ones that cost a whole bunch of money for the production, right?
Yeah, right.
Those are the more fun ones.
Disney World, yeah.
So when the show...
Oh, and then one where earlier... Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go.
Last one.
Yeah.
There's one called Model Daughter where Karen was doing the modeling, and then of course she paid money, and then they were going to make her a star, and then of course he skipped town with her money. And so, there was good storylines to be had, good lessons to learn.
I was just going to say, when the show eventually did come to an end in the late 90s, you moved to CBS for a season after leaving TGIF. Did it kind of, like, for the cast and everyone, did it seem like, all right, it's time to wrap this thing up, or was it kind of a shock, and was everyone sad? I mean, how did it feel for everyone on set when it did end?
Yeah, and it was kind of like it kind of came by surprise, because I think the last episode was going to be Stacy and Jason Marsden, the rich character, getting married. At least I heard that's what the plan was. And then the network cut it short, like a few episodes. So we never really had that final, like goodbye. So it just kind of ended before the season was fully finished. And so yeah, that was difficult, even though I think Suzanne Summers from the beginning, like the first season, she said 7 years. She said it's going 7 years. So she always had that idea in her mind, and it came true. So right. I think, people were pretty happy with that.
Let's get a reunion finale special and end it off the right way. Let's start pitching that to like Hulu or something.
Yeah.
Disney
That'd
Plus.
Be cool. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Angela, I mean, thank you so much for spending the time with us. We appreciate you coming on here today.
Absolutely.
You're welcome. Thank you for highlighting the show and remembering, the 30 years. And we appreciate all the fans who enjoyed it. And, I think it's a good show that's not around anymore. And for today's kids, it's hard to find something that they can watch, and parents don't have to worry about what their kid is watching. So if you're looking for something like that, we have over 150 episodes on Hulu that they can find.
Where else can our listeners find you if they're looking for you? I know you've mentioned a couple places, but what's the best place to send them?
So probably AngelaWatsonSings.com. That leads to my Facebook. I'm not really big into Twitter and Instagram, even though I have my accounts. So probably Facebook is the best way to reach me at this point, or through my website. Or you can go to, I didn't mention this one yet, lovebirds2020.com. My husband and I were married right before the pandemic. And so you will find some COVID skits that we put together on there, some impressions,
Nice.
An 8-minute film that we did for a film festival that was kind of wacky, as well as like daily couples devotionals that we like to read and, be inspirational to other couples out there. So.
Well, I know what I'm doing right after this interview then. And also, just so we don't lose the opportunity, we've got 6 years of Step by Step. So hopefully we can stay in touch and maybe have you back on to talk about some specific episodes when we get to some cool, like,
that would be cool.
episodes.
Yeah.
So,
that'd be awesome. I love to stay in touch.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you, Angela, so much.
Guys.
Thanks.